We're in Create Space in Alpine, Texas, a little to the right of Marfa.
Yep,
Am
east.
I
Yep.
saying it correctly? Yes. Chris Trew, one half of the Mortal Machine podcast. I'm hanging out with Monte Welt. Monte Welt, thanks for making time to be on the
Of
show.
course, man.
This is extra special for two reasons. One, because, well, on a personal note, you have a mural outside of the house that I've been living in for the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
I reached out to you wondering if you had any prints for sale, and then we talked more and we found out that you are also from New Orleans.
Yep.
Incredible.
Out of Metairie, but
Well, it's good.
so-
It's good on you to clarify that
Right.
you're actually from Metairie, but
Yeah.
it's New Orleans.
Yeah, anyone from outside of New Orleans, you'd be like New Orleans, and they'd be like, oh, okay. But if you're from New Orleans, you gotta specify a little bit.
Sure. Now you are in Alpine right now, which is 30 minutes away from Marfa, and I've been doing these Marfa interviews with artists. And I guess the thing I wanted to know, perhaps first and foremost, to kick us off, is what is the difference between Alpine and Marfa?
I feel like Alpine, I don't know, they both have their own like unique qualities, but I feel like Marfa is more of like modern art and minimalistic because of Donald Judd, and then you come to Alpine and you find more of the classical style of like landscapes and things like that. So,
Cool. And so was it an active choice for you to have the studio here? And also, are you based in Alpine?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. I've been out here for like just over 7 years now, which
Great.
is crazy to think about. But yeah, it was more of like a choice of like finances. Marfa is being out in the middle of nowhere. You'd think it'd be cheap, but it's actually pretty expensive living.
So what are some of the other differences between Alpine and Marfa? Because I've met people who are like, in Marfa, people are like, you got to get out to Alpine.
Yeah.
And of course, Marfa is the place that has the more social cachet, I suppose. But
Sure.
there's stuff happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely. I feel like Alpine is more, I don't want to say for living, but it's somewhere like Marfa has people that come and go quite a bit, especially like during like summer will be super busy. During the winter it'll slow down. It'll be just the locals kind of thing and less tourists. So you kind of get a difference between both of those. But it just depends. I feel like in Alpine you get more of the hometown vibe of like what West Texas is. So it's a little different.
Yeah, and what brought you out here originally? Because you were telling me right before we started rolling that you actually moved out here sight unseen.
Yeah. So I met my fiance in Florida, and she had lived out here previously. And yeah, she was like, I know this place out in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, all right, well, let's give it a try. Why not? And the only time I'd been out here was on the interstate with my dad driving back from LA to Florida. And I remember like passing the interstate and looking around this area and being like, who would ever live out here? And then almost 4 years later, I just like was driving past the same spot and took my exit, and yeah.
Yeah. So what was that transition like? Like, did you hit the ground running? Like, what's it like to move here and then establish yourself as an artist here?
Yeah. It was definitely a shock at first. Like the initial shock when I was driving into town was just like, oh, this is it. Like, especially growing up in like a city, I always was like, I'm a city kid, and things like that. And then, yeah, I got out here and it took probably 3 years, I feel like, until I felt like truly comfortable where I was like, oh, this is nice. Like, it just took time and everything. So, yeah.
So what would you tell somebody who is trying to do what you did? What would you tell someone who's like moving out here to make it as an artist? Making it meaning like carve out a living,
Yeah. It's a grind with anything, doing any sort of creativity or anything like that. Like people are like, oh man, it must be like, that's gotta be the dream. And it is, for anyone that's creative. But at the same time, like people that do it full time, like, no, it is work. Like you are like working probably more than you work at like a 9 to 5 or something like that,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I feel like doing it out here specifically, has been a little bit of a challenge because it's like they call it West Texas time. And so everything kind of happens like the next day or 2 days after or three, whatever, when it happens, essentially, which is like, has its own beauty, but at the same time, it's like when you're trying to like move things along, it's like, man, like, what are you doing? So.
Yeah. I know we have a version of that in New Orleans, the whole, Big Easy and laissez-faire,
Absolutely.
but it is another level.
Oh, no.
Another level over here.
Another level. Like, someone will be, I'll be there at 3, and then they show up like, 4:30. And they're like, oh, and there's no traffic out here, so it's not like anything happened.
They came when they wanted to come.
Exactly, pretty much. And it's just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so what's it like to adapt to that type of mentality here? Like, was it hard? Like, did you fit in pretty quickly? What was that like?
I feel like I had, I guess a little bit of, I don't want to say like anxiety, but like, I feel like my style of art wasn't the typical, like, especially in Alpine. Like, you probably see more of it in Marfa, but Marfa also has that seclusivity, I guess you could say, when it comes to like the galleries and things like that. And like, especially not being like a fully like well-established artist, especially when it comes to like the gallery space and things like that, I was kind of intimidated to go like into Marfa and things. And so being in Alpine, even just being the town over, I felt like it was, I don't know, it's more of that traditional Western style, and I lean more to like the graffiti and pop art stuff. So I was very anxious to, see how people responded.
Yeah, so not a lot of graffiti and pop art in Marfa, right? It's like, I mean, I've gone to as many galleries as I can this past couple of weeks, and the kind of stuff that I'm open-minded about everything,
Right.
But the kind of stuff that I lean more towards, it's like things that you see at Mortal Machine, it's like lowbrow, surrealist, like
Absolutely.
street arts, cool stuff like that. And there's some of that in Marfa, but there's a lot more that's not that.
Right.
A lot more.
100%. Yeah, no, definitely. That's, I think a lot of that has to do with Donald Judd that lived there back in the 70s, I think it was. But he does that minimalist style, which I personally don't care for, but, that's what you see a lot of over there. And it just doesn't feel like, for me, it's like I wanted more, like more color, just something more vibrant. And especially being out here in the desert, it's a lot of like browns and greens and things like that. And I mean, there are other colors, but bright, bold colors that you'd see in a city. And I wanted to bring that out there. And it seems like there's been like a good response to it so far, which has been great.
Very cool. Yeah. So is there more of a is there more Alpine versus Marfa stuff that I'm unaware of?
I don't know. It just depends on how you look at it. Like, I personally kind of view like the Tri-County area, like here, Marfa, and then Marathon, and even down in Terlingua. Like, it's almost like its own like little city, essentially, like big little city.
Like all those things combined.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Sure.
Like everyone knows everyone from each town over.
Yeah.
And like people have lived here their entire lives. They're like, oh, like screw that, screw Marfa and like screw Alpine, back and forth and stuff. But it's like when you haven't been out here your entire life, you're like, dude, there's only so many people. Like,
right.
What are we doing?
Right. Yeah. It's just so interesting where it's like, any great arts community is going to have people that have each other's backs, community and helping each other out. And someone has a show, they invite other artists to be in the show. But then also, like, as communities grow and expand, inevitably, rifts occur.
Right.
And I've always joked that, like, the way to make the most enemies in like in an arts world, whether it's performing arts, visual arts, whatever, is to have like a lot of success in a short amount of time.
Right.
Because then people start to be skeptical. And anyway, I'm just not looking for hot gossip. I'm just curious, like, because it seems like it's a choice to be in one place or the other, and each place I'm learning more has its own aesthetic as well.
Right. No, 100%. Yeah, I feel like. I will say, like, if I was in Marfa, I think the exposure would probably be different, depending, because you get a lot more tourists that aren't just going down to like Big Bend or something for like the weekend. They're going from like New York or LA for like the art and everything that's going on there. So I think the exposure would be different. I just don't know for me, like I said, being in Alpine, I love it. It's different, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It works out.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so some of the listeners might not understand how this works, so I just want to hear it from you. I know who you are because I saw the mural on the side of the building, right? It's simple, but it's beautiful. I love that tumbleweed. I think it's so cool. I think it's so cool. And but how does that happen from start to finish? Like how does you painting a mural on the side of a building that's not yours, how does that happen from start to finish?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of getting to the point now where people are reaching out to me. Like there was, you know, a point in my life where I was like, you know, door knocking and being like, hey, can I paint on your wall and stuff like that? And people would be like, nah, or, you know, yes or no, and, you know, that sort of thing. But now I'm kind of getting to the point where it's mostly people like reaching out to me like, hey, I've got this idea. Can you make it happen?
Incredible.
Yeah. I've picked up like sign painting since I moved out here as well. I did like the classic traditional sign painting and stuff. And so I did it one time. Someone's like, can you do this for me, you know, as a favor? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then all of a sudden everyone sees it and they're like, oh, I want my logo painted on the building. And so I'm like, all right. And being out here in a small town, and to like survive off of just art, you have to be able to do like a little bit of everything instead of being only like in your one niche, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a little tricky sometimes, but it's also like a good challenge.
Well, tell me more about the actual process though, because someone reaches out to you. Okay, let's do it right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's up, Monty? I got a building. I love your work. I want you to do something on the side of my building.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, like, go out there, take pictures of like the building itself, and then I'd sketch up something digitally, and then I'd show it to you and be like, all right, how do we feel about this? You know, is this the direction we're looking to?
So at this point, though, did this person say, I want stars and moons, or are they like, no, you do your thing?
I get that every once in a while, and usually I think it turns out a lot better, which is great. But I feel like I've also built a really good clientele off of being able to like give people like exactly what they want. You know, I don't know if that's from being like in the service industry and stuff like that,
or from the South.
Yeah, we're from the South, 100%. But yeah, it's one of those things where like, you know, people want to come to me to get it done right, and they get exactly what they want. But you know, it's one of those things where usually I'd say, you know, 9 times out of 10 when someone's like, hey, I've got this idea generally, like, you know, we're the animal shelter, we want dogs and cats. I'm like, cool, say less, I got you, you know, and it turns out amazing. And everyone ends up loving that one the most out of any of the other pieces. And so, yeah, it's kind of like just trust your artist.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, y'all heard that? You got to just trust your artist.
Trust your artist.
Yes. Speaking of which, have you seen this no notes posters person in Marfa?
I don't think so.
This makes me laugh so much. I saw this. There's posters in laundromat and coffee shops. It's someone in Marfa doing no notes posters where it's like you pay them and you don't get to give them any feedback.
Fair.
Like which is like pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
every artist is like, that sounds badass.
Yeah, 100%.
But their whole gimmick is like, you just tell me what the event is, when it is, give me the who, what, where, why, and then I'm gonna give you a poster and you might not like it.
Yeah. That's great. That's amazing. Honestly, like I do have friends like in the mural game and stuff like that, and they'll just do like the most like elementary sketches and show it to the client. And they're like, this is the general layout, and they're like, okay, and so that way they don't have in their head like what it's really going to look like, and so it kind of takes that ease off of you know, the expectation at the end.
Wait, that's as a way to help them.
Yeah, just curve like what they're expecting, sort of thing. So he's not using any sort of like photo reference or anything like that in his mock-up. He's not showing the client that. Like he'll use it for himself, but he's not showing the client that. And so that way they're just like, okay, like gotta trust. You know? And then when it turns out like how it does, and he does an amazing job, but it just takes, you know, their level of excitement to like the next level.
That's really cool. That's a
Yeah.
smart way of doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
Are there how many buildings in this Tri-County area that you mentioned have your work on the side of them?
I'd probably say close to 20 at least.
Ooh, that's
And
nice.
there's not a lot of buildings out here.
Sure. I mean,
so-
that's a good percentage.
Yeah,
A good
yeah,
percentage
yeah.
of the buildings. Do any of them have it that are there any like buildings where there's nothing inside that you're just like, yeah, I'm doing my stuff over here.
Like there are like vacant buildings here and there where like, you know, when I first moved out here and just trying to get like, you know, my name out there and things like that, because I didn't move out here just being like in people's faces. It's not my style of being like, hey, I'm an artist, like this is what I do, you know, that sort of thing. And so like, you know, there were times where I'd be like, man, this looks like a really nice wall, like just kind of scoping out some spots and being like, hey, who owns this building or what? And in a small town, like usually you can get a hold of a building owner like relatively easy comparatively to bigger cities.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And in that way, you know, people always joke, at least in my world, the comedy world, people always joke about like you can't pay bills with exposure. You know, it's like do the
100%.
show for free, but the exposure or do whatever. And of course, there's a time and place to do things for free. I'm not hating on anyone who does that. I mean, especially if you're just getting started in something,
Right.
you better be good with doing a lot of things for free, or you will.
Yes.
You're gonna curb your own opportunities. But putting a mural on the side of a building is like
yeah.
that exposure does pay off
Right.
eventually, right? Because
Yeah.
people walk by it or drive by and they're like, I want that guy to do this on my business.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, I've kind of like I've gotten to the point now where I don't have to do the exposure thing anymore, and I still have people maybe that don't know like what I do as far as like the traveling outside of like Alpine and stuff like that to other cities. And so, you know, they'll be like, hey, I've got this fence in like my alleyway, and I'm like, okay, and they're like, I think it would be great exposure if you came painted it. And I'm like, okay. And you know, you don't want to be like completely rude, you know, because it is a small town, and you know, but it's just like, oh yeah, like I don't know, I'll put it on my list or something, you know.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Like the gall to have to do the exposure thing
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it's in an alleyway is really funny.
In a small town, like, you know, like how many people are gonna walk down that? So,
Yeah.
so,
Well, dude, this has been a ton of fun and so interesting. Thank you for taking the time to jump on the podcast. Any closing words, Alpine shout outs, the other things people should know about Alpine? Which again is just 30 minutes away from Marfa. So if you're going to Marfa to do art stuff, then you might as well come out here as well.
Yeah, sure. I would say just come check it out. Like I was really surprised with how many murals Alpine had when I first moved out here. And even besides my murals specifically, like there's probably another 20 plus murals in the city. So it's just great to like get out and walk around, and all the shops are usually open sort of thing, which is also another plus. And there's definitely a handful of galleries as well to see. So yeah, it's a little bit different than what's going on in Marfa, but definitely worth coming out this way and kind of just getting out of the city, you know, for a little bit, you know, unwind.
Love that. Appreciate you, Bonnie. We will link to website and whatever works you got online. We'll link to that in the show notes here. So if you want to see more of what Monty's up to, you'll be able to do that. Click on the show notes. Also, like and subscribe, all that good stuff that everyone tells you to do after every single podcast. But they tell you for a reason, because it really helps. So if you like the podcast, support Monty. Also support the podcast with a subscription. Monty, thank you so much. From one New Orleanian to another, and congrats on all your success, buddy.